Vlogmas Day 5, and today I have a very special recording for you. Today we're going to talk about all the patterns that if I had an unlimited amount of time and I could be like Mariah Carey and make 47 wardrobe changes on the night of New Year's Eve, all the things that I would make. New Year's Eve in and of itself has a very special aesthetic to it. You want something that is just a little different from the norm. That's something that helps you ring in the new year feeling beautiful and handsome and confident. And I want that for all of us. So I've curated a list of all these patterns that I think would look incredible on New Year's Eve or for any special occasion for that matter. In this group of patterns, I have collected some things that fit my own personal aesthetic, which is a little more feminine presenting, but I also have some that are more masculine presenting and kind of straddle the line and are a little more non-binary or unisex. I just wanted to make sure I had a little bit of something for everybody. And I will have timestamps for each and every one of these patterns. I'm just sending a blessing through the camera to myself in editing as I'm watching myself say that. We're gonna ring in this new year in style, baby. We're downstairs in the festive atmosphere. I've got my laptop ready. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. So the way I'm gonna organize this is I'm going to try to have the patterns that I think are maybe the most time consuming of all of them up towards the start of this video. If you're like, girl, I ain't gonna knit nothing for New Year's Eve, and then all of a sudden you're watching this and it's 2 days before New Year's Eve and you got FOMO, you can skip to the back half of this video and the faster knits will be there. I already know how some of y'all work, okay? First up, let's start with the Waffle Loop sweater by Other Loops. And I'm actually technically gonna call this one pattern, but I'm actually gonna refer to two patterns by Other Loops because I feel like a very cute set situation coming on. Stay with me. So the Waffle Loop sweater is number one, adorable. It is really, really classic, but something about it also feels kind of edgy. Like it's giving me very much like Banana Republic type of like elegant, secretly rich vibes. I love that it has multiple textures happening. I think it's a super versatile garment, and it's one of those pieces that I think you can then transition into the new year with. So you'd get a ton of wear out of this guy. On New Year's Day and beyond, it will still be freezing. Probably into April because climate change. So this one is knit up at a worsted weight gauge, and they use a DK held with a lace weight. You can circumvent that if you don't want to wait and you want to just cast on. You know you got some worsted weight right here, right now in your stash. Cast on. I always try to tell people, do not feel like you have to use that lace weight yarn with anything. Does it add something texture-wise to your garment? Absolutely. Most of it is used to add a little bit of a fluff factor. It's also used to add a little bit of drape because you're adding in a fiber that is very, and so normally it lends a little bit of that to a garment that can sometimes be too stiff. If that doesn't matter to you and you like a really rigid look, and this garment is one of those that you might want a more rigid look, you might want it to feel a little more structured in stability, a little more stable, just do the worsted weight wool, girl, and just go on about your business. And so the reason that I want to talk about this pattern in a set of two is because Other Loops also has the Waffle Loop skirt, which is a set that is intended to go together. The two of these, I mean, obviously, you can knit them separately if you want, but they're knit up at the same exact gauge. They have coordinating little textures across them, and this would look so freaking cute. Plus, I love the idea of if you had enough time to knit both of these garments, the versatility that you would then have moving forward into the future to know that you had a fully knitted skirt and then a fully knitted garment also. Like you've got top and bottom, you is covered at least for a full week of outfits out of that. You got options, that's all I'm saying. And we stand an option around these parts. The next pattern up is the Sweetheart Revenge top and dress, and that's by Friday Knits. And girl, does she love a sweetheart neckline, and I love it from her. She's so good at it. She has a really cool way of making sure that that fits in just the most perfect way, and it will fit any body, any shape. So if you have a broader chest and it's also flatter, it will still work for you if this is a garment that you want to wear, okay? What more of a New Year's Eve statement is it to show up to the party in just this casual little black dress that I knit myself? Excuse you. Issues I could see. This is knit up totally and completely in fingering weight. You heard what I said. Not fingering weight held double, just fingering weight. This is something you have to cast on tonight, baby. This evening. This pattern comes with multiple options, so you could definitely knit this as the full dress, which I think is intended to make an impact, right? But I think it's also worth noting that you can knit this as an off-the-shoulder top also, just as cute and stunning. I think that there is something so innately classy about an off-the-shoulder top. The fact that you're just showing off the, how do you say that word? The décolletage. This, your collarbone, girl. Make sure you're moisturized. Don't tell them that you knit that top and I sent you out there looking ashy. We's not doing that today. New Year's Eve is a great time to be fully covered up, but also showing off. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand the assignment? You will, because I'm gonna tell it to you in the next 37 patterns that I have to say. It's not 37, I promise. This pattern also includes video tutorials, which I think is great because it is termed as an intermediate to an advanced pattern. So you wanna be thoughtful about that where you are in your knitting and crafty journey. Next up, we're moving into the lace, okay? And honestly, this designer, I could probably pick every single one of her patterns and they would suit for New Year's Eve, because New Year's Eve has like a very specific, special aesthetic. You need something that has like a little razzle dazzle to it. And Sorry Nordland is so incredibly good at that. This Rococo pullover has been in my queue for ages. I don't even want to tell y'all how long it's been sitting in that queue because it's disgusting, and sorry, I should really cast on this sweater by now. And I apologize for that. This is a really, really beautiful garment. I have multiple sweaters that are yoked pullovers that have lace up here in the top of the yoke, and I just find them to be so beautiful. There is something about that lace work that just lends yourself something little special to your sweater. No shade to cables. I love me a cable too, but lace in a yoke has a special place in my heart and always lends itself to something feeling very soft and romantic, I think is probably the word that I'm looking for. So the Rococo pullover is in a DK weight yarn. We love. Now don't get confused, because the yarn that she used in this pattern is called a worsted. Every single designer that I have ever seen use this yarn, which is the La Bien-Aimée Corey worsted, always designates that it's a DK. So please trust these designers and use either that specific yarn or a DK weight yarn, okay? Otherwise your gauge is gonna be all over the place, and we don't need that kind of energy coming into new 2024. Next up, I have another skirt, but it's actually a skort, which is why it's up closer towards this front end of things, because it is actually a lot of knitting, even though it's a mini skirt. And that is the Sporty Knit Skort by Florence Miller. If you don't follow her here on YouTube, you should be. She is lovely. Her channel is called Handmade by Florence, and I really, really love her content. You should definitely go and check her out. So the Sporty Knit Skort is number one, adorable. Number two, if your personal style kind of lends itself more towards that preppy kind of vibe, and or you want to play with introducing like a couple of little preppy things into your wardrobe that kind of mix and match with other aesthetics, this is a great garment. I also feel like it's so good for leading up from winter into spring. You will get a ton of use out of this garment as long as you're really, really thoughtful about, number one, the color that you pick, and number two, making sure that all the finishing on it is great. Florence is so good at giving excellent tutorials. I think she's an incredible teacher, so she's not gonna steer you wrong on this garment. Now, even though it says it's in DK weight, it is a lot of knitting. You're essentially knitting two garments at one time because you've got shorts and then a skirt on top. Things to think about, okay? You could go without, But I think it would defeat the whole purpose of purchasing this pattern. For that, just go ahead and purchase a different skirt pattern. I think you want the techniques of what she's doing to integrate those shorts and that skirt together into one seamless transition. Also, quick side note, you're picking yarn and fabrics for a skirt or a skort or any kind of bottoms. I always like to tell people to please, please, please be thoughtful about what you pay for that yarn. You are literally gonna be putting your tush on that all the time. You're gonna be sitting down at restaurants, in your house, at work, wherever. Don't use the yarn that cost you an arm and a leg and you can never get any more of on a garment that is going to be on the lower half of your body. Just don't do it. All right, next one up is a great pattern for any of my lovely people that like a little more masculinity to their garments, or if they like a more non-binary type of look. And that's the DNA Pullover by Andrea Cullen. I particularly love this cable pattern. Like its name, the DNA Pullover, it is supposed to like replicate the look of an actual DNA helix. So if you have like a little nerdy bone in your body like I do, I love that not only does this sweater scream like Big Daddy vibes, but it also just looks like, hi, my name is Clark Kent and I'm actually a superhero. This one is also knit up in a worsted weight. Couple things to note with this pattern though is that even though it's knit up in a worsted weight, it is going to be more work. Why? Because this pattern is seamed. If you are not a seam lover, a seamer, a seamster, if you don't like those, this pattern is not for you. Find a different cable pullover pattern. Honestly, I think that it's worth the seaming for this garment, just so that we don't get too strong in my comments on the seam hate. I'm not a seam lover either, but there is something to be said for seaming a cabled garment, because when you actually physically put a seam in as opposed to doing a seamless construction on a sweater, you are adding more structure and more strength where you added in the actual physical seam. So something to think about is when you have cables that are in a heavier yarn like a worsted weight, if you've ever felt what those cables in a garment of any type, garment or accessory, feel like, they be heavy, girl. Just think about the fact that you're adding in seams to keep that structure, hold the garment together, and have it not just kind of like over time become looking like a fainted lady in a Renaissance painting, you know? That's not what we want for our sweaters that we spent 90 million hours cabling on. No, thank you. Next up is the young lady that was inspired by Justin Timberlake herself. This, another open back top by Christelle Lou. Oh my God, this is very, very high up in my personal running of what I might cast on for New Year's Eve. I love an open back moment. It is very much giving the same thing as we were talking about the open collarbone situation, the décolletage. Showing everything and nothing at the same time is like such a slay. And Christelle nails it with this garment. Now this is knit completely in fingering weight yarn, and though it does not have a back, and though it is not seamed, one of the things that you need to be cognizant of is that when you have really, really long ties like she has down there at the bottom, you be thinking that they're just gonna fly because they're this thin. No ma'am, you gonna be there for a long time. You're gonna be there for a long time. You might say some choice words at that garment, then you're gonna have to knit a second one. Just keep those things in mind. I think that this would totally be worth it. I love that you could really use this for any kind of like party setting from here on out to forever. It would be a statement piece. It is definitely one of those garments that you would wear out and somebody will inevitably ask you where you got it from, which is, I think, genuinely what we all want in life. We all want someone to ask us where we got that garment from so we can be like, I made it. In the snobbiest way possible. Your dreams might be achieved with this guy. Thank you, Christelle. This is just a quick break to say that if you're still here watching this video, number one, I appreciate you. Number two, if you're kind of feeling the vibe so far, if this is kind of feeling like maybe your jam, that you would hit that subscribe button and follow along, and maybe like the video. If you didn't really like hurt you too much, to press that thumbs up. I would appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help other people to find my little personal, creative, crafty chaos. It does make me really, really happy every time I get a new little crafty cousin joining in the crew, okay? I have got to make y'all mugs or shirts or something that say crafty cousin on them. Anyways, that's enough for my personal plug. Let's get back into these patterns. Keeping with that very like romantic, nostalgic kind of vibe is the Augustins, I don't know, number 16 by Anne-Sophie Velig. I love this designer. She has such a unique perspective, a unique look. Oh, she just leans in like I am a 17th century noblewoman who lives in the French countryside. It is the best. Augustins number 16 is a lot of knitting, but man, I think it's gonna be worth it. There are so many dramatic moments for this garment. I think that this would look incredibly beautiful. If you are a little bustier, like if you got some curve to you, please bake this garment. I don't have much. I want to make it, but I don't think it's going to give me the same effect. That fullness and that hourglass that's kind of created by the ruffles that are happening around your neckline, and then that very full peplum that happens underneath the tie. Ugh. So good. If you are concerned about getting yarn in time, if you don't have enough in your stash, same thing as we talked about with another open back top that we just referenced. This one has a lot of fabric happening in a lot of places. So you want to make sure that you're being really thoughtful about what you pick for this yarn, because this one is a pattern that recommends holding a fingering weight and a lace weight together. And you need a lot of it. If time and money is not an object, this is a garment that I would absolutely suggest that you do hold that lace weight with it. Why? Because this is so romantic and ethereal kind of looking, like it's very much giving like I'm maybe a fairy queen. I think that that extra fuzziness that you will get from that lace weight will add a little touch of that sprinkle of magic onto the garment itself. It will just kind of soften it all out. And this is definitely a garment with all of those frills and volume. It is about embracing that softness. Next one up is for my babies that they just want something that's comfortable. And I'm here with you on that. So this next pattern is the Knitted Streets of Copenhagen. This is by Pernille Larsen, who is part of the Knitting for Olive team, and it is featured in their new Knitting for Olive book, which so many retailers have right now, including Amazon. So don't come with me in the comments that you can't get this book, because you can, and it's lovely, and I own it, and I love it. Knitted Streets of Copenhagen is knit at a super bulky weight. Well, what they term is a super bulky weight. And that is because it is a worsted weight held with a lace weight, wait for it, on 7mm needles and on 10mm needles. You are gonna finish this sweater like this, okay? I love this. This is for my girlies that are gonna wait until the last freaking minute. Baby, this is the one for you. Like put a bookmark, a flag, something right here at this time frame, at this time stamp, because this is the one for you. Sometimes I get a little frustrated with the patterns that are knit up at bulky and super bulky weights. They just don't quite give the same look and aesthetic that a bulkier weight garment does that you get from a ready-to-wear store. I think Pernille, she hit the nail on the head with this one. Looks like a sweater that I could buy off the rack at Zara. I would just like to spend 30 days knitting it instead. This guy, styled with some don't come for me Gen Zers. Listen here, my little Gen Z crafty cousins. If you come for me in these comments about what I'm about to say next, I'll still love you, but it will hurt my feelings. I think this would look incredible with a pair of like faux leather leggings and then a knee-high boot, or even like a chunky knee-high boot. Like lean into like very streetwear with it, and you would be the most comfortable, cutest dressed person at your New Year's Eve celebration. Okay, next pattern up is the Mine Blouse, and this one is by Park Williams. This is another one that's been in my queue for forever, and I just haven't found the right moment and the right time to cast it on, but I need to because it's so good. Again, super elegant, very classy. She's got a high neck situation. There's a bloused sleeve. What I love is that Park has created this garment that is so versatile that you can knit this at pretty much any range of ease that you want. She says that you can knit this garment anywhere from 4 inches of negative ease to 4 inches of positive ease. So it's really whatever silhouette on your body itself, like on your torso itself, that you feel most comfortable with. And I stand a designer that's like, let me take myself out of the equation. You do what you want to do. We love it. This pattern is technically knit up in lace weight. That's what it'd be saying. But through a little more perusal, I noticed that she used a yarn that is actually designated as a light fingering. So I would say swatch. Do as I say, not as I do. Swatch. But also, I think that if you use like a very light fingering, like maybe knitting for olive merino, you should be golden, baby. Let's do something a little more unisex again. Ooh, let's do this one by Audrey Borrego. I love her designs. If you follow me on Instagram, you should be. But if you don't, I talk about Audrey Borrego probably like once a month because I think her patterns are incredible and she's an incredibly slept on designer. This one that she just released that was originally in a magazine but is now back in her hands is the Dagian. I don't know if she says how you pronounce it. She does not. We're just gonna go with whatever we feel like. This Dagian sweater I think is so incredibly cool. You are paying one time for so many different style types of garments in this one pattern. This pattern is great for literally any style of body. It's great if you are more feminine presenting, more masculine presenting, if you're non-binary. I think it's incredible. She has an option to do it with these baubles, which I think you should do. I think they're pretty cool. But she also has an option to do it without. She also has an option to do it instead of with long sleeves to just make it into a vest. This is a cool pattern, y'all. Just options on options on options on options. This one is knit in a light fingering yarn, but honestly, if you wanted to do this as just a vest and kind of style it like I styled a vest today with a collared shirt underneath, just focus in on making sure that you have all of that texture present, I don't think you could do any wrong. You could also, if you wanted to be like a little more risque with it, you could also just wear the vest itself if you wanted to show a little more skin on New Year's Eve. This next pattern up is a cardigan. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of people styling just a cardigan with wide leg trousers or with a satin midi skirt or whatever. So I felt like we had to include at least one in here. I wanted something that had like just a little something special. So these are for my girlies that love like the Cézanne, the very French girl aesthetic. This is the Farandole cardigan. This is by Tricot Design MCL. I love that it is a crew neck cardigan and it has this really cute like scalloped edge kind of details. Something about it is giving me maybe not Cézanne, more Anthropologie, you know? Just a little something extra, a little something funky to make a very simple and often done garment just feel a little different. This is another one, knit up at a DK gauge, but is technically recommends a fingering and a lace. I think you could just get away with just doing a DK weight of something. Again, the world is your oyster. Knit this however you want to. But if you're concerned about time, getting yarn, holding things together, blah, 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 I think that this is one that you could absolutely get away with that and it wouldn't take anything away from the garment to just knit it up in a DK weight yarn as opposed to adding something a little more fluffy into the mix. Next pattern up is not my aesthetic at all, and I still think it's freaking adorable. I am not a bow girly. I know that the bows have everybody in a chokehold right now, and that's not me. But if you are, this is the pattern for you. This is the Magdalena sweater. This is by Alexandra. Oh, she's Polish. I don't know how to say her last name. This is by Alexandra. I'll put her name on the screen. I think that this is so cute. Something about it is so sweet and unexpected for a knitted garment. I don't know. It just feels very special. Every time I look at the pictures of these, it makes me smile. It also makes me feel like homegirl in these pictures is literally like, I'm the present. Happy holidays, everybody. Things to be cognizant of. Even though this is a full-on sweater and it is long sleeve, it is towards the back half of these patterns that I'm talking about today because it's knit up at an Aran weight gauge, plus it uses US 10s and US 9s, which is 6 millimeters and 5.5 millimeters and 7 millimeter needles. Baby, it's gonna go fast. And I think that's to give you a little extra time too, to be able to add in those bow features. If you want to do this pattern, not only are you going to need 4 to 5 meters of ribbon for that actual design across the sleeves and across your bust, you're also going to need some sewing elastic, because it looks like she uses that to make sure that at that gauge, you're still holding together the structure of the garment in the best way possible. All right, next pattern up is the Cloudbow by Reed Keys. I think I might be casting this on, you guys. This one is so beautiful. This is knit in a lace weight yarn. This is perfect if you have some lace weight yarn in your stash and you're just not quite sure what to do with it, because it's knit at such a large gauge and because you can really layer this over a million things. You can knit just the long sleeve version with the peplum and use it as a top over something silky or close fitting underneath. You could also, if you wanted to do a dress, you could layer this over top of like a slip dress, and I think that would look so cute. In the sample pictures, these are striped and it looks like they use like a lot of different colors, and it kind of has a very funky, again, kind of anthropology vibe. Personally, for New Year's Eve, I would almost steer more towards just doing it in one solid color. Let that color kind of shine and let you kind of be the moment underneath it and not necessarily the garment, because on New Year's Eve, all eyes are on us. We're nearing the end, y'all, I promise. Next up is the Capulet blouse, and this is by Fable Knitwear. It's another designer who has a very specific nostalgic kind of aesthetic to all of her garments. All of her designs kind of remind me of like a 1950s, 1940s aesthetic to them. I love it. It has a very distinct feel to it. And this Capulet blouse has over 78 projects in it, and they are so freaking cute. Mind blowing. Whether you're busty, not busty, whatever, it doesn't matter. This garment is made to flatter whatever shape you've got going on. I love that the ribbing around your waistline is actually a cabled ribbing, so there's like a little some extra happening there. I especially love the way the sleeves are shaped, and then that little ruching in the center to like accentuate a bust line is so freaking cute. I just love it. She's such a good designer. So this one is knit up in, it says a sport weight, but she also has listed a DK weight yarn, so I would do either of those. Only 2 more patterns. Let's go. We can do this. Next pattern up is the As If Tee, and this is by Shay Johnson. I'm saying the As If Tee, but what I'm really talking about is 2 different patterns. There's the As If Tee, which is knit up in like an air into a bulky weight, and then there's the As If Tee Light, which is also knit up at a fingering weight gauge. This is a pattern that you cannot not use the lace weight, because it is going to give you that illusion neckline that Shay has going on across the top. I think this is a really cool, really fun garment. I've knit both versions of these, both the original, the OG As If, and the As If Tee Light, and I love them. Definitely gives us special event kind of vibes, and I love that it is a short sleeve, so this is a fast knit. We're gonna cast this on and bind it off in a few days. Now, last but not least is for my babies that want something that is fast, but also that is very versatile in terms of, I'm gonna wear this maybe in the winter, maybe in the spring, maybe in the summer, maybe in the fall. Like, we're gonna wear this garment all year round. It's the Tonight top by Lily Kate France. This is such a good, just versatile mock neck top. If you are looking for something understated, if you're a very minimal-esque type of person in your style, this is a great one for you. If you're not sure about it not having sleeves, girl, layer a blazer over it or a cardigan and call it a day. Is it giving a little bit of like, who's that lady who thought she was Steve Jobs but was actually scamming the whole world? It's a little bit like her vibe. So this one is also knit up in fingering weight, but I think because it's only intended to be worn with about 1 inch of positive ease, and also because it is completely sleeveless, I think that this is gonna knit up in no time. You have to do a little bit of finishing stuff to it, but I think that is what makes the garment look so beautiful and professional in the end. So totally worth it. Don't skimp out on those little details, because I think they're what make this particular mock neck top especially special. I wish I hadn't said it that way. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Those are all the things that I would cast on if I had an unlimited amount of time and could knit anything that I wanted for New Year's Eve. Let me know down in the comments if you liked any of these patterns, which one was your favorite, and if you're gonna cast on anything special for New Year's Eve. Maybe you already have a garment that you've been preparing for this moment and you already know you're gonna wear it on New Year's Eve because it's super special to you. I wanna chat about what are the things that make a garment New Year's Eve worthy for you. And then just a last reminder, if this creative, crafty chaos was kinda your vibe, if you like what's going on with the crafty cousins down in the comment section, feel free to join our total and complete chaos community by subscribing to this channel and liking this video. It doesn't cost you nothing, but it does help more people that are like us, a little crazy, to find this content. All right, that's it for Vlogmas Day 5. I'll see you guys tomorrow.